All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 360 Sports Show here on Sunday, May 9th, 2021, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there, including my own and Christian's own. We'll get to say a couple of quick words about our moms at the end of the show. Will be a quick show here today. With it being the holiday, we want to get out and spend time with our families on this gorgeous Sunday, but while you find us here live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch, like we are every Sunday at 11 a.m., make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. If you want to catch the show afterwards, you can rewatch on any of those platforms or subscribe to the podcast through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcast from. So I'm Andrew Pizzelli. He's Christian Lauber. Join us in the chat section. We're going to be ripping through the past week in sports as quickly as we can here. But Christian, I'll just start first with how are you doing? I mean, the last I saw you was the night of the NFL draft. We got quite loopy there at the end. I know we felt one way on draft night. I did the show last week. My emotions and takes and feelings have been changing, kind of shifting with the tides. I want to know how you feel. How do you feel about how the draft went for the New England Patriots, and how do you feel about Mac Jones now?
Yeah,
with
so
time to stew.
Order, right, I'll do it in that order. So the rest of the draft after Mac Jones, I felt was okay. I like what they're doing. It's a lot of defense, and I think there was a wide receiver in the late rounds. Ode to Ernie Adams on that one. So hopefully that kid can play. I would have liked the wide receiver maybe earlier, just to get a young guy in there. But overall, I like the strategy, I guess you could say, of the draft, just based on what they went for. Defense is kind of what I was aiming for outside of a quarterback. So I like pretty much every pick. Now, can they play? Who the hell knows? But I like, where they pick the guys.
Yep.
In terms of Mac Jones, so I've settled on this. I'm happy they got a quarterback, and they identified whether it was they traded up for him or they didn't trade up for him. They identified Mac Jones as someone that was on their board. They liked him. If he was there, they were going to take him. Would they have taken Justin Fields if he was there? Probably. So I don't know how much they like Mac Jones. Rumor has it they do. So I'll take that.
Rumor has it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll take it for what it's worth, and I'll just say that they wanted the kid. And I'm excited about what he could potentially bring. I don't expect him to play this year. I'll start there. I think it's Cam Newton's go this year. But beyond this year, you used a pick at 15. This guy has got to be in there next year. By middle of this year or next year, he's got to be in there at some point. If Cam Newton is 1-7 or something midway through, probably even before that, right? You're 3-4 and it's not looking good, then I think you throw the guy in there halfway through the season. But overall, they never play rookies. They barely ever do it. So it's probably going to be like a red shirt type year, i.e. Damian Harris, i.e. James White, all these guys that do it.
Yeah.
And then next year, he better be in there and ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's unprecedented because you're right. They like to redshirt guys. It's different because it's the quarterback. We don't know what they've wanted to ever. I mean, the closest we could ever get is Garoppolo, which was a second-round pick, who I don't think Belichick was ready to just kick Brady out while he's still good and go to Garoppolo. I think he wanted to see Jimmy through to the end of his contract. If Tommy was tailing off and he's 38, and it's like, come on, guys, we got to make a call here. He probably would have wanted to go towards Jimmy. Obviously, we know what Tom still continued to do and is doing. We don't know in this situation now. Will they commit to redshirting him? I'm glad that they have Cam. I'm with you. I expected no matter who they picked, I did not want to throw them right into the fire. Even though I believe in this coaching staff and I believe in this roster that's talent, I think it's good to have that little bit of humble pie for the rookie quarterback so he doesn't just think, unless you're drafting Trevor Lawrence, right? Number one overall pick, everybody knows who the big man on campus is, right?
Or Zach Wilson.
Yeah, or Zach Wilson. Same. 1, 2, even 3. But 3 is a little bit different because of it was Trey Lance. But you draft Mac Jones 15, give him a little bit. He's probably already humbled enough because he thought he was going to go high. But you know what? Let Cam be the starter and give him a little bit of extra motivation to show up and try and work, right? And earn it. If he beats him out this year, thrilled. Absolutely thrilled if he's starting. I won't complain if he's starting because it means he will have earned it. Exactly. If he sits behind Cam and as long as the team is successful, Yeah, it's fine. But I'm with you. Year 2, you best be the starting quarterback. It shouldn't be a question that you're the starting quarterback. And if you're not, it's a bust. You could have had Kwity Paye. You could have had a ton of, I've said it, versatile defensive players, skill position guys. You could have gotten other impactful players at that spot. Quarterback, he's not sitting behind Tom Brady. It's not like, oh, well, we drafted him here and we're stashing him for 4 years. No. You best produce soon. And play at a high level. I mean, we expect the team, they could be playoff contenders with Cam this year. Year 1, if Mac Jones has the reins, whatever Cam did, you have to meet that and maybe go one step further and just show a progression year after year after year. So, I mean, we won't know whether it was the right pick or not for a couple of years. I'm more encouraged now from the things we've heard after the fact, like his competitiveness and his drive and this sort of stuff, which I didn't hear much about before. I mean, we heard kind of some things about it. Yeah. Maybe it's because it's been brought up now as this like red flag. Everybody's talking about it in New England because now we know Mac Jones is the guy. All these stories are coming out of the woodwork for us.
Of course.
So, yeah. I mean, you take all of them with a grain of salt.
Comes with the territory.
But I'm not like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Because you're right. They took a quarterback. If they had not taken a quarterback, I would have been stunned. Absolutely stunned.
And let's not forget, so, I mean, I think I know where you're at on this. Mac Jones or Jimmy Garoppolo? Who would you rather have?
Mac Jones.
Yeah. So, supposedly...
Damaged goods.
I'm not convinced if they had gotten Jimmy that they would have drafted Mac Jones. So, I think...
I'll take both. If you tell me Jimmy gets cut in August and we say, bye, Cam, and let Jimmy start for us, and Mac Jones sits behind Jimmy Garoppolo, at least that's like, wow, these two quarterbacks are like very similar type, ability, everything you want, what the Patriots want out of their quarterback. I don't know how much Mac Jones is going to learn behind Cam Newton. It's not like he's learning behind Brady, who was in this system for 20 years. There's no institutional knowledge that Cam has that Mac won't be able to pick up in a couple of months. So I'd take Jimmy, but I ain't giving up anything for him now. I mean, because
at this point, no. But I mean, if he became available, I mean, they wanted Jimmy. I think that's pretty clear now. The Patriots they were in on him. So if they had gotten him, would they have drafted Mac Jones? I'm not so sure. But supposedly the salary, obviously Jimmy would have had to come down, and the notion
didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. And the notion that the Patriots should have just paid him the $25 million is just stupid. Yeah. So I get the cap is not really great in the NFL, right? You can finagle everything and get guys under the cap, but at the same time, this guy has played. He's been hurt the last 2 seasons. He should not be making $26 million to come and start for the New England Patriots. I'm sorry, or any other team for that matter. I
think he knows that. Yeah. And that's why he's haggling on it, because he's like, I ain't ever going to see this money again. I'm going to hold on to this contract. Cut me. Fine, cut me. Pay me all my money now.
Yeah. I just don't know how the 49ers feel about it. Are they going to pay this guy $26 million to be the starter this year? I think they need him now because they drafted Trey Lance, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to Mac Jones. But it's an interesting conversation just based on the Patriots. We're in on him, obviously. And where would they be instead if they had just gotten Jimmy and that's it? And then Stidham's your backup or something.
Well, I mean, would they have, if say they had traded for Garoppolo and it didn't involve, say it was like the Bridgewater deal. It's like, wow, they got him for a 5th-round pick. And they gave Gilmore up, and that way they could just take on the whole salary, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they went Kwity Paye, Trask. How would you feel about that versus drafting Mac Jones and then just waiting, and maybe Jimmy gets cut in August and we can get him for nothing?
See, I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with Jimmy as your guy, and then in the later rounds you go after Mon, Trask, one of those guys. That would have been a good alternate plan, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm fine again though. I'm fine with Mac Jones. Like I'm excited to see what he's got. But I wish it would be this year. I'll be honest, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of the same crap as last year. We're going to be watching this week after week.
What has to be what is Cam Newton's? What's the threshold? Like, what does he have to do to keep Mac Jones off the field? Like, what record do the Patriots? He has to obviously play well. It won't matter what their record is. If he's not performing, he won't be on the field. The eye test will tell you that. But what does the Patriots' record have to be for them to be like, we're gonna try something else? Does he have to be better than 500? Like, if they're 5-4, is it like, well, we're sticking with Cam because we're doing it? Or does Cam have to basically be like 8-2, 9-1, 10-3? Like, does he have to have one of these? We start 4-0. Like, it's got to be something like that, right?
Yeah, just based on the roster and how much money they've gone out and spent, if they come out of the gate and they're like 2-4, 2-5, I don't know how long you can hang on to that. I think you just put the kid in, especially if he's at least performing at the same level as Cam in practice or whatever eye test they need to do to get him in the game. But if he starts out bad with this roster and a full offseason, I would hope that they'll have this year, based on where things are headed. I can't imagine the Crafts are going to want to sit up there for an under 500 team. So I would say aim for like a 75%, win.
Something
win
like
percentage,
that.
something like that. So if you're 5-3, I think Newton's your guy, But if you go the other way, I mean, look out. Who knows? I mean, you know how much crap is going to be thrown at them.
Look out below.
Yeah.
Well, also, hey, full capacity stadium, fans will be booing. You can't just pipe in cheering this year. Fans will be booing if the team is struggling.
And fans will be lubed up and ready to go for this season. Absolutely.
God, yes.
Crazy. So there will be boos. Yeah, if they start out poorly.
Yeah. Boos will lead to boos.
Yeah.
Last NFL kind of note that I wanted to get your thoughts on before we move on. Lightning round here today with it being Mother's Day. What is your thoughts on this Aaron Rodgers situation? I think the Packers should just cut bait now, take whatever you can get, and just get away from the guy. You drafted Jordan Love for a reason. We said this like in the offseason last year.
Yeah.
You drafted Jordan Love, or during the season too. You drafted Jordan Love for a reason. If you don't believe in him, then you've really screwed yourself. But I think they believe in him. So Aaron Rodgers is turning into a giant problem. Would you want him to have a lame duck year and just poison the rest of your roster with, he'll show up and play, but like, what's the attitude going to be? I think he's gone about this whole thing the wrong way, but it's kind of what we said about Aaron Rodgers. The guy just seems, he's weird, he's different, and he's like totally self-absorbed. So he can't have it both ways. Can't have the roster you want and also get paid out the nose. I think they should just, honestly, cut him. Who cares? Just get away from us. Go away. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to deal him now at this point. You got to get what you can. At least I would hope a first-round pick for the guy, but because he's an elite player. He's a different cat. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't talk to his family. He's weird on the field. He likes Jeopardy a lot. He hosts there. That could be another job opportunity for him.
His future is in jeopardy.
It's like, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think the Packers are kind of screwing themselves. I'll be honest. You got to get what you can for him because he's done. If he says he's done here, I would take him at his word because I don't think he's coming back once he's made up his mind.
And he's not going to retire either. He ain't going to, if he's that disgruntled with the team, he's not going to be like, I'm so mad at you, I'm going to give you back $22 million. That's not happening.
Not going to happen.
Not happening.
So you got to get what you can at this point. I think you just move on. And whether you need to, maybe you get a quarterback coming back, say if that Niners trade did go down, the rumor was Jimmy was going back to Green Bay. So if you got to get a guy like that in front of Love for another year, do that. But I think, you drafted Love for a reason. So this is year 2. If you want him to sit one more year, sure.
Yeah.
And then he's good in year 3. But you got to cut bait with Aaron at this point.
Yeah. I won't say I don't see a way he's starting for them this year because he totally could. I just don't see why, if you're the Packers, you would want to at this point. Like, why would you want him to ruin the room? And I know, like, Tom Brady, I've been reading the Jeff Benedict book, The Dynasty, was pretty, he knew going into his final year in New England, it was his last year. Now, I think that he tried and as hard as he could on the field, we know he did not put in as much effort with like the rest of the roster. Like he didn't care about cultivating these young guys. He wanted veterans. He wanted the Demaryius Thomases and the Antonio Browns to go along with Edelman and Gordon.
For a second-round pick.
Sanu for a second-round pick.
Nice
hey, Tommy, that was your pick, by the way. He wanted him over Emmanuel Sanders, who I thought would have been
good choice,
amazing here. Wanted him in New England for forever. But at least I think Tom showed up and played. I feel like Aaron Rodgers might be like, well, I'm contractually obligated to come and play the game. Is he going to try and be an MVP again? Or is he just going to pout the whole year?
Yeah.
And he's going to just tank your team. I would just get rid of him. Why even put up with that? You drafted the guy. You were ready to move on from him anyways because the dude's not young. And he does have an injury history. He likes to just run around like it's backyard football. He's just one bad hit from being done with the way he plays. So why even risk it? I don't know.
I mean, I think they could go back to a title game or whatever, but I think this past year they missed the opportunity.
Yeah, he missed his opportunity. And by his own admission, doesn't care about winning another ring.
Yeah, he wants to win MVP. So that's good. He got a second MVP, right? 2-time MVP. What is that? How long is that? How far does that take you?
And the funny thing too is, the going into that conference championship game, there's a lot of Brady versus Rodgers talk. Who's better? Blah 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 blah. And it's like this example shows you the Patriots drafted his replacement in Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brady was so furious at that he beat the kid like basically off the roster, even though he's like a decade and a half older than him, and then went on to win 4 more Super Bowls. 4. Aaron Rodgers, they draft Jordan Love. He responds with an MVP season. And now it's just like, we'll see. Yeah. Didn't win a Super Bowl. Yes, you had an MVP season. You proved you still got it. But then, like, he wants a raise. He wants them to put. Yeah. He wants them to draft. Maybe that's why he wants them to draft receivers. Draft younger receivers. That way they can be cheaper, so you can pay me more. The dude's
just you, Aaron.
It just maybe it's because we've been spoiled in Boston across all the teams with a lot of there's guys that get paid, but the winning was the most important thing, and especially like when you had a guy like Brady who was the best player in this era amongst the 4 teams. Who literally put winning above everything else, like dedicates his entire life and his day around getting better and maintaining himself to win football games and just keep winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. And not being overly concerned with, well, I want to milk every dollar that I'm worth. If Tom Brady wanted to do that, he would have won his first 3 rings because he was on that, a smaller deal. He would have left in 2006 in free agency, and he would have been maybe the highest paid quarterback ever, and probably never would have gotten back to a Super Bowl. But that's just not how the dude's wired. And maybe we're just getting exposed to seeing how many more of these dudes are wired, and they win. I mean, we see it in the NBA. Look, Kyrie Irving won a ring. He thinks that he's made it. He doesn't have to prove anything else. Kevin Durant, LeBron to a degree, but I feel like later, like LeBron kind of wanted to go buy his first 2, and now he's kind of just like on that grind to try and extend his career and just like keep winning.
Been to 10 finals, so
I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is weird. Last note on him: would you want him in New England if you could make the money work? Because he's gonna want to get paid. If you could make the money work, would you want him in New England?
No, I don't think so. Just because you're back to square one, and then you got to deal with another bitchy quarterback, and it's just like we're just gonna do this over and over again until we get a guy in here. So I'm all for. I wanted them to cut bait with Brady, just the 2 sides. I thought it was time. Obviously, that was a mistake on the Patriots side so far. But hey, if Jones pans out, then fine. But I want to go younger. I don't want to go back into this like diva style, bitchy quarterback. Attitude problem comes in. I mean, maybe it'd be different here, but you'd have to pay out the nose for him. And at that point, I don't know if he's even worth it, right?
Yeah. No, I'm a no. Hard pass. Don't want anything to do with that. We kind of mentioned LeBron there in the NBA, so let's quickly go through NBA stuff. We'll check on the standings as of today. A lot is going to change and shift in the coming days. in the middle to the bottom. Right now, your Boston Celtics are in the 7th seed. They have 2 big games against the Miami Heat, which I think essentially will probably be the determining factor whether or not they're in the play-in round or not. Behind them is the Hornets, Wizards, and the Pacers have now they're in that 10 spot. The Bulls, I don't know if they'll be able to make their way up there. In the Western Conference, you've got the Lakers now in the play-in game, which we called as soon as LeBron and AD both went out. We said they could slip. They could go from the number 1 seed to the play-in round because of just missing those guys, and that's where they are now. Right on their heels is the Warriors, who have had Steph Curry playing out of his mind the last month and a half to get them into that spot. And then the Grizzlies and the Spurs, Pelicans and Kings nibbling there at the back, but might be tough for them to get in. Before we rag on the Celtics, how do you feel about the play-in tournament? I think it's great because all these teams that normally would be packing it in and tanking at the end, there's excitement around more games, and teams are actually trying because they have this hope. Even though we know there's no hope for some of these teams, they're trying, and the basketball's been good. The Bulls would not have tried the other night if there was no play-in tournament, and the Celtics would have beaten the bag out of them because they wouldn't have even tried. Yeah. I'm all in. I love the play-in tournament. I honestly want them to keep it. I think it's better.
Yeah, I think I'm in on it, honestly. It gives other teams here at the bottom of the standings a chance, and typically anyway, the number 6, 7, 8 seed don't really go anywhere in the NBA anyway. So why not just have that play-in tournament, create more games, do kind of one and done style to get in? It's kind of like a baseball situation with the wild card. You get a 1 game and you're in.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of for it. I just think like it creates a little bit more down to the wire. Instead of, look, there's always going to be teams that are way the hell out of it because tanking and all that stuff. But, I'm for the play-in tournament, at least for this year. I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I like it. I think if it keeps things exciting and we'll keep more of these teams trying, I think it's worth it. I think it'll be good for the game. Now, as I said, your Celtics are 35-32. They are 11.5 games back of first place, which is the Sixers. They are a game out of 6th, a game and a half out of 5th, and obviously 2 full games behind the New York Knicks. The 4 seed. Nobody at all saw that coming. I don't know what to think about this Celtics team. I feel like we've all kind of said that it just feels like they're dying the slow death of they're going to be in the play-in game. They're going to lose to the Hornets and then lose to the Wizards. Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier get to say, ha-ha! And then, Jason Tatum gets knocked out by his boy, Bradley Beal. Because I think the Wizards are a really dangerous team, especially if they say get in and they're playing like the Nets who have no defense. That backcourt is going to feast. And it would be crazy to see the Wizards match up with some of these teams. It feels like the Celtics, if they're in the play-in round, I just have zero faith in them winning. If they're the 7 seed, they got to win a game. And your season comes down to that. If you lose it, then it's obviously 1 more game and you could be done. They're so frustrating because they show you they can beat anybody when they're on their game. Now, I know they're missing Jaylen Brown, but too bad. The rest of you guys are talented enough to be able to not lose to the worst teams. I don't know. It's the most Jekyll and Hyde team I've ever seen. Usually teams have like inconsistency, and then they find a groove and they kind of stay with it. I still don't know what to expect from this team. They could beat the bag out of the Sixers, and then they could go ahead and lose to the Magic. I really don't know. I don't know. And honestly, really? I'd rather them just lose in the play-in than get to a conference championship and be like, look at us, and then get smoked by the Nets.
Yeah, I think they're going to be either a play-in exit or a first-round exit. They are the only thing consistent about this team is that they're inconsistent. So, like, they're insanely frustrating to watch. They beat top teams in the West, top teams in the East, and then they lose to the Bulls, to the Pistons, to all these bottom teams, and it just looks like they don't have anything. And I just don't see them competing with the Sixers or the Bucks, maybe even the Heat, who are in front of them a little bit. Teams like that. I think maybe the Knicks and look, I think the Knicks would be a tough matchup because they actually try and the Celtics really don't on a nightly basis. So
yeah,
they're like the Isaiah Thomas Celtics, that Knicks team. They just try hard, they play defense, and they win games like that. But I think this team is on their way to and I'm kind of rooting for it because I think they need a change in here of some sort. So they're going to be a play-in exit or a first-round exit.
Yeah. Because say they're the 7, and they hold that spot. If they win the first game of the play-in, you're matched up with the Nets.
Good luck.
I don't know. It's going to be a high-scoring series. It's going to be a high-scoring series. Pete from Gansa here. Is the problem with the Celts the coach? No, it is not.
Here's what I'll say about the coach.
It is not the coach.
It is not his fault, but he is part of the problem because they've tuned him out. That's what it looks like.
Have they, though? Like. I mean,
Yeah. It looks like they don't want to play.
I have a developing thing. I don't think it's the coach. I think it's the GM, and I'll tell you why. And maybe to a degree it could be the coach. I think the way they've approached this year, and especially the second half of the year here, I mean, Jaylen Brown is out. Robert Williams is being managed for pain, so he's in and out of the lineup. The COVID issues with Fournier, so he's been in and out, trying to build some consistency. Kemba not playing back-to-backs, right? To get to the playoffs. I feel like maybe in the back of these guys' heads, they just don't even care where they finish. They know they're going to be in the playoffs, and we don't care. We know we're good enough to win a game if we're the 7th seed. Or we know we have it in us to just smoke these teams if we have to play 2 of these teams twice. And they're just sleepwalking. Right. And I mean, I don't think, is that tuning out the coach? Like he cannot coach the team, or is that them just saying we just want to be done with this regular season? It's tuning out the coach, but it's not the way you phrase it, oh, he's lost the locker room. Does that make sense?
I'm not so sure about that, though. I don't know if he's lost the locker room. Doesn't seem like guys want to listen to what he's saying. It's like there's been occasions where he goes into a press conference, rips the team, and then they come out and absolutely just have a dud or 2 or 3 in a row. So there is something not right in the locker room. And everybody wanted to blame Kyrie, and I think he was part of it back when. But there's other problems with this team that I don't know how you fix them. The roster's too good. These guys bitch. The roster's bad. These guys bitch. There's no in between here. And the expectations are high because they've made the Eastern Conference Finals and they should have beaten the Miami Heat last year and they couldn't get by them. And now this year they're having pretty much a terrible year in terms of if you look at the roster, they should be way better than they are.
Yeah.
So I'm just at a place where I think the coach is not off the list. And I think they've slightly tuned part of it out anyway. I don't know. It just seems to me, it feels like something is off there.
Yeah. I don't know. These next, they got 5 games left. Today at 1:00 versus the Miami Heat. Yeah. Tuesday versus the Miami Heat. Those are must-win games. Then you play the Cavaliers. Guess what? Must-win game. You should beat the snot out of that team.
But the Cavaliers
you play the Timberwolves. That is a must-win game. Now, the Knicks to wrap up the regular season on 2 Sundays from now. Oh, no, next Sunday. Wow, that's 5. What a busy week. Holy cow.
Yeah.
5 games in 7 days. Let's hope that Knicks game doesn't matter and they can just take it off because it's it won't affect the standings. Because 5 games in 7 days, and you're gonna if you don't, you could put yourself in the position where, say you have to play that Knicks game to try and avoid the play-in, and you lose it. You're playing the next night in the play-in. 6 games in 8 days.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And
Recipe for disaster.
For all their issues with COVID and stuff, they've played a lot of games here, and one of the guys that looks gassed to me is Tatum. So yeah. I hope he can turn it on when he gets to the postseason and kind of grind it out. And I don't want to make excuses for him because he's had some pretty terrible games. But let's not forget he's 22, 23 years old, and most guys don't get there for a while. And between him and Brown, all the weight that they've had on this team, at least early on, not so much anymore with the guys coming in, but they look gassed. Yep. I don't know. They just look worn at this point.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's tuning out the coach, if it's just sleepwalking at this point for these guys. Last thing here we'll hit on. A lot of talk this week about the NHL. And James Dolan, NBA fans familiar with James Dolan. Knick fans, they've seen this act before. James Dolan meddling with the New York Rangers in the middle of a fantastic rebuild. Starts with Tom Wilson destroying one of their players in a scrum. Tom Wilson then subsequently does not get fined. The Rangers didn't retaliate that night on the ice. They expected the league to take care of it, as they've tried to tell these teams to do. Let the league, let the discipline come. Don't seek that pound of flesh on the ice. We're trying to avoid, remove some of that from the game. Doesn't come. Tom Wilson gets a $5,000 fine. Pittance. And so the Rangers put out a statement without the permission of their GM or their president, and then calling for a league executive to be fired over the discipline. And then they bounce back and tell James Dolan, well, how about you fire your guys? And he obliges and fires John Davidson and Jeff Gorton, who had basically remade the Rangers from scratch. And now, what happened the next night, too? The Rangers PO'd about all of it because they think that James Dolan thinks he's saying it's about the culture of the team. So James Dolan's kind of sending a message that, well, you guys didn't retaliate on the ice. I don't like the culture of this team. So what'd they do? 6 fights in the first 4 minutes. Is that what the NHL really wants? They could have just suspended Wilson for 1 game and avoided all of this. Just your collective thoughts on the entire mess that was the past week for the NHL, Christian.
Well, I mean, I'll just start from the top. James Dolan is an idiot, and he's been an idiot for a long time. He's one of these owners that loves his power, and he's got 2 teams. He owns both of them, and he goes on power trips. The statement was embarrassing.
Oh, yes.
Just absolutely atrocious to even do something like that. Obviously, that came from him. Everybody knows it. And then not only do you put out that gross statement, but when your guys kind of back off from it, like we didn't give the okay on this, you fire them. So that makes sense. In terms of like the fighting in hockey, I mean, the theater of it is awesome as usual. That's not what they want, but when you don't suspend a guy like Tom Wilson for doing what he did to Panarin and Buchnevich, I don't know what else you want, league. Like the Rangers made a point to go right after Wilson. He stepped on the ice, got into a fight pretty much as soon as he got on the ice, and then he magically got injured and went off the ice, which to me is saying the Capitals, get your ass to the locker room before you get like crunched out here.
Yeah.
Don't come back this year. But I think the league made a mistake here. And then the next night, these 2 teams play again, and Buchnevich goes and cross-checks Mantra in the face, and he gets 1 game. So there's like a little bit of a double standard. Now it's a cross-check to the face, but I'll tell you this: Wilson is a guy who plays on the edge. He always has. He always will, probably. If he could clean it up, it'd be nice. But he goes right to that line where it doesn't look like it's so bad. Nothing actually happens. Nobody's injured. Panarin got injured on the play, but it's not like
his skull could have been cracked open.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's the problem, right? But because it didn't, he doesn't get a game, and then you have what you have. But for me, as soon as I see a guy that is notorious for this crap in the league, he's got to get a game. That is a must. So there is your first problem. That's the league's problem. The second problem is a Tom Wilson problem. And a lot of guys in the league now, they can't really stand up to a guy. You don't have a Sean Thornton in the league anymore. You don't have a George Laraque. Those guys aren't around as much anymore. They weeded them out. It's a lot of skill. They don't want fighting as much. You have some big defensemen that could go, but do they really want to? You want to take a good defenseman off the ice to go in a fight with Tom Wilson? Not really. So it's a strange type of thing, and I think the league has to actually handle this better. $5,000 for that guy is just insane to me, especially when you consider all the track record, all the crap that he's pulled before. Just this year even. Yeah. What do you get? 7 games?
7 games.
That? And then this has to be an automatic 1 game at least, just based on the guy. He didn't cross the line, I would say, but he goes right up to it. And we know the player.
But you can go to him and say, you should know better, dude. You're getting a game.
Yeah. He didn't even have a hearing. Just the $5,000 maximum fine. So pennies, basically, for them. And, you move on your way, and then they're lucky he didn't get hurt. Yeah. How many guys would go after him or something like that? You never know. And, I mean, look, he creates this thing for himself. And then he goes in the box that same night he does all the crap, and he's in the box and he's taunting the Rangers bench and stuff. The guy's going to get himself hurt or somebody else hurt. And I mean, how long does it take to end a career like that with a guy like that on the ice? Because he doesn't clean it up, that's where he's headed.
Yeah. It's like such a weird situation because the NHL, which is trying to get away, they got the new TV deal. They're trying to avoid the fighting like stigma thing and the enforcement and dirty hits and everything, blah, 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 taking some physicality out of the game. And you tell the teams, don't retaliate on the ice. Let the punishment system like take over. And then, so you get more goons off the ice. You take some of the retaliation off the ice. But then when you don't hold up your end of that bargain and don't, like you said, suspend this guy, you get almost twice as bad as what you were trying to avoid, which was that 6 fights in the first 4 minutes of a game, which personally I thought was awesome. You know, like you said, guys cross-checking each guys in the face. Like, as long as it's like between the lines and on a line and it's just physical, it's not guys with intent to hurt or injure, like
Tom Wilson.
Like Tom Wilson, then I like that physicality in hockey and let them police themselves. Now, blindside a guy and end his career? Absolutely not. But ask him to drop the gloves? No. Come here. You want to go check him? You're fighting me now.
Yeah.
Let that take its. Somebody has to police it. And if the league says they're going to do it and they don't do it, the players are going to do twice as worse as you were trying to just avoid in the first place. I think it's like the NFL. Smaller, faster defenses have led to bigger, beefier offensive lines and running games for some of the best teams. Is there just going to be a niche of goons in the league who basically just get to be the bully on the playground because there's nobody out there to challenge them?
Yeah, I mean, look, I still think there's a play. Like, let's not forget, Tom Wilson can actually play the game of hockey. So
That's true. That's what's unfortunate about it. He actually can play, too.
I just sent you something. Just whenever you have time to watch that, Sean Avery thought. But it's just one of these things. Like, Tom Wilson is not – he's a goon, but he's not. He can play the game of hockey a little bit when he's on the ice and he actually wants to play the game instead of gooning it up. But you don't really have guys that, you know, want to be on the ice, and teams really don't want to put these guys on the ice anymore that are just going to be in there just to get 150 penalty minutes a year, right? That's just not what the game is anymore. It's a lot more skill. It's a lot more speed. It's a lot faster, you know, less kind of physicality. You know, they're still hitting in the game. I don't want to hear like crying about how like, oh, everything's so soft now. Wah. I think the game is at a peak right now where the physicality, if it's good, it's very good. There's no dirty hits. You don't see a lot of that anymore, other than a few times a year, I would say. Probably more. But in terms of like actual guys that are, you know, out there with intent to hurt, there's very little of that. It's just a very high quality physical game. And so guys like Tom Wilson who can do a bit of both, there's nobody out there like that's just going to run over him and take him to the ground and start fighting him like there used to be. Yeah. And I don't think that really has there's a place that to some extent, but I think you have to be able to play the game a little bit. Like you can't just be, you know, George Laraque who is going to dump the puck in and chase you down and hit you, you know, someone like that.
Hey, go get it.
Yeah. You gotta be more like a Tom Wilson, like an Evander Kane, those tough guys they play a little bit on the edge. Wilson, you know, mostly over the edge, but a guy like Evander Kane is speed, skill, he's tough, and he can run a guy. So it's just, it's a combination league now where you have to be able to do both if you're going to be that guy.
Yeah. Quickly here, Christian, how you feeling about the Bruins? There can be some shuffling in the playoff seeding for them, but how are you feeling about their chances going in, and what's a matchup that if they're going to draw somebody round one, who do you want it to be? What's going to be the best path for them?
Well, the other three teams, it's Washington, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders, right? The Islanders are boring as hell, so I'd rather avoid them. And
they're like our kryptonite for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. I'd let them I'd rather have them just go, you know, put somebody else to sleep. But I would say, if I had to guess now, I think it's going to be Washington. You know, the Capitals can tie the Penguins in points, but Pittsburgh has locked up that number one spot. So you're going to be shuffled between 3 and 4 probably. You might not catch the Caps at this point after yesterday's loss. First round matchup is tough. I don't think it matters because I think all of them are good.
Yeah.
In terms of matching up with, if I had to choose between Pittsburgh and Washington, I think I'd say Washington because I think you're gonna have to go through them anyway.
I'd
It's gonna
say
be a really
Pittsburgh.
hard series.
I feel like there's a Washington thing. Like I feel like Washington's more in the Bruins' heads, and the
Yeah.
Bruins are a little bit more in Pittsburgh's heads.
That's true. That's true. See, they're two very different teams, right?
Yeah.
Capitals want to beat the hell out of you, so that scares me. And the Penguins are just highly skilled. Malkin, Crosby, you know what those guys have done in the postseason. So take your pick, I guess. You're gonna have to go through both of them, I think. So I don't know if it matters. Do you want to delay the inevitable, skull bashing with the Capitals, because that will be a rough series between those two teams.
Are the Bruins equipped? I don't think they were equipped for it the last couple of years to play in a series like that. Not with the roster they had. Are they a little bit more equipped this year to compete in a series like that?
I feel a lot better about it if Kevin Miller's in the lineup, which, right now he is, because he just adds an element of toughness. He's a rugged guy. So I think they are. I think they have some more depth back there. Obviously they're a little bit more skilled as well. So like McAvoy is tough. Grzelcyk can get out of hits and stuff. He's more skilled. He's quick, especially on the back end. And then in terms of, their forwards, I feel like they all work hard right now. Krejci is, kind of revitalized here with Taylor Hall coming over. So you kind of put all your eggs in the, the top two lines basket, and then hopefully guys like Coyle and them can come on. I would say they are more equipped just in terms of you had guys like Nick Ritchie on the back end. If you need a Tenorti or someone like that for a Cap series, you can go that route. But Kevin Miller's back. I feel a lot better about them when he's in the lineup. And I just think you're better off. Your sixth defenseman here could be arguably all top four defensemen. I would say more in the 3-4 range. But other than McAvoy, it's like you mix those guys in. You can shuffle them wherever you want. So I think they're definitely more equipped with size. And, man, since Taylor Hall came over, that Krejci line is going. So I feel a lot better about it if they can do it in the postseason, because Marchand, Pastrnak, and Bergeron, we know what they can do. But if they get beaten up throughout a 7-game series, they're going to be, pointless at some point. So some other line has got to pick it up.
Yeah. How you feeling about the Swayman?
Very good. I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid because I think he's kind of the next guy here.
Yep.
But and I think Halak knows it too. I don't know if he saw his meltdown the other day, but they lost the game with him in net, and I think he lost his backup job. And I think he knew it because he lost it.
Yep.
Going off the ice. So I really hope at this point they know Swayman's the backup. You got to get Rask right, and he's got to be fully healthy because I think he's the guy. But I'm hoping, low key, maybe Rask lays a turd on the ice in game 3 of the first round, and Swayman has to come in, and then you get like a that lightning spark, and all of a sudden there you go. Because I think he's the guy.
This was Halak freaking out.
He's not exactly enthralled. This is a guy who I think lost his job.
Yep, 100%. For the podcast listeners, he is trying to destroy as much equipment as he can on his way to the locker room in an overtime loss.
Yeah.
So that's the description.
To the Devils, no less.
Yeah, to the Devils. I'm excited for him. I'm with you. It's like I don't want to put too much pressure, but maybe he's just ready for it. Hey, if he can take the pressure, awesome. If you're going to be a starting goalie for the Boston Bruins, you're going to have to deal with pressure eventually. So,
yeah. The last thing I'll say on this Bruins team, too, is we're going to have a lot of questions during the offseason on what they do. But for now, I want to see what this team does because I think they're kind of rolling. They're feeling themselves a little bit. I think they can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody in the division. But I'm going to sit back and enjoy the ride because this could be it, and it might not be. There's a lot of questions going on in the offseason, but for now...
At least they're playing well.
Yeah.
It's like they could beat anybody and lose anybody. We said that about the Celtics. The Celtics are just maddening to watch. The Bruins, at least, are a good watch.
Yeah, and they try. So I'm kind of, Stanley Cup playoffs, there's no better sport to have playoffs to just sit back and relax, kind of. It's gut-wrenching, but I'm going to enjoy the ride here because who knows what they'll look like next year. So this has got to be a good run, I hope.
quick point here at the end. The Boston Red Sox, they were the first team to 20 wins this season. They are on top of the AL East. 3 games up on the Blue Jays, 21-13.
I told you. You didn't want to listen.
Hey, but here's the bad news. Oh, where'd it go? They just lost one of their pitchers. Where'd it go? Pete Abe's had it. I gotta find it. Come on. Who was it? Tanner Houck. Done.
Is he injured?
Shut down with a sore flexor muscle.
Oh boy. Well, he's in Worcester anyway, right?
Sure, but it's the depth thing is going to be so important for getting through this year, and for this team, they need that. So that's the first little chink here for them. I don't know. I believe they will be playoff contenders. They'll get. I think that the strong starts always lead to playoff pushes. That's just a baseball fact.
So how it goes down though, but I think good news on Chris Sale is he's starting to throw again. He's starting to ramp back up. So who knows what he's going to be when he comes back?
Simulated? Did he pitch a simulated game at 65%?
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't get into that. I just know.
Did you Sale ramped up to 73% today?
Yeah. And he's throwing 65 miles an hour, so watch out.
Hey, the Williams Astudillo, he's giving us the lob shots. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
He comes back with an eephus pitch. That'd be sick.
Hey, why not? I mean, if your arm's shot, you might as well, right?
Yeah.
You could be a position player like the other guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, but I would say he's probably in line. Maybe August he'll come back. So still a ways away, but. Man, I'll tell you, one guy that's in the MVP conversation for me is Xander Bogaerts. This guy's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, I agree. But we're going to have plenty of time to talk more in-depth baseball. God bless you. Because their season will be rolling along throughout the summer. Playoff push for the NHL, for the NBA. There's still, even though the draft is over and we don't have like real football things, this quarterback carousel is clunking along, is still spinning. And there's going to be some big moves. Deshaun Watson, that situation is going to get resolved, and he is going to get moved. I wouldn't be surprised. Aaron Rodgers, probably going to get moved. Does that knock Jimmy Garoppolo free? Who knows? There's plenty of things happening in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have it all here on the 360 Sports Show. Thank you for finding us here live on a Sunday, like we are always, starting at 11 a.m. Short show today here for Mother's Day, but we'll be back next Sunday for a full show at 11 a.m., streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. You can like, follow, and subscribe on all those platforms to never miss a show. And if you want to take us on the go, you can subscribe to the podcast through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcasts from. So I just want to say happy Mother's Day to my mom. I love you. I'll be seeing you soon, hopefully at the Kinney Azalea Gardens in Kingston. It's a gorgeous day. I want to spend all of it outside as much as I can. So happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day to my mother as well. You're the best. Love you. And, let's enjoy it because, I mean, look, the weather is much better than last year, and things are on the rise here. We're not in snow anymore. It's warm.
Oh, yeah, it was a blizzard last year.
Yeah, let's enjoy the day.
Awesome. So that has been the show. Thank you for all of you who've joined with us here on a Sunday. Go out and enjoy it. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.